Sheryl, here we are in Parque Carolina, right inside Quito, pretty close to my house. You challenged me to find a parasitic fungus, and if this week I had time to go to the cloud forest, I would show you many different examples of cool parasitic fungus that take over insects and control their minds. But as one of my doggos was super sick this week, we're in Quito. So the best I can do for you this week is to show you a symbiotic fungus.
Turf Wars, a battle of wits, knowledge, and creativity. Which naturalist will prove they're the best? Choose your fighter and watch the action unfold on Turf Wars!
But before we get into that, I wanted to rate your previous challenge that you did for me, which was finding an organism that is adapted to a harsh climate. And I do believe harsh is where you live because there was snow in the background of your video. How can you even tell me that it wasn't harsh when there was like literal snow behind you? So anyway, I'm feeling particularly generous and I think you did a really great job. I loved all the adaptations you talked about, and I really loved all the adaptations that you talked about just about the leaves. I thought that was really, really interesting, the modifications to needles, and I knew nothing about that plant before or that it even existed. So I'm gonna give you 5 stars because I'm feeling so generous. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about some symbiotic fungus that I found with possibly a parasitic fungus. So the symbiotic fungus that I'm going to show you is lichen. I'm liking it. Lichen is a composite organism made of fungus, cyanobacteria, or sometimes algae. These two organisms, the fungus and the cyanobacteria and or algae, work together to create these kind of moss-like, leafy, coral-like structures that you can find almost everywhere. The fungus is made of the hyphae. The hyphae are kind of like the root-like structure. It's actually the main part of the fungus. It's just the part of the fungus that you don't really see that often. If you're like walking around and you see mold or you see mushrooms, that's the fruiting body of the fungus. But most of the fungus is this weird root-like twisted structure beneath the substrate, and that's getting all of the nutrients. Well, that's what we have here in this lichen. The long twisted hyphae help anchor the lichen onto the substrate. It's responsible for getting nutrients, and it's responsible for gaining moisture for the composite organism. The algae or the cyanobacteria is responsible for photosynthesis and providing carbohydrates for the entire organism. Some of the cyanobacteria and algae, it can live independently and doesn't need the fungus, but some of the fungus is actually obligate and needs this symbiotic relationship. However, it's still beneficial for the cyanobacteria or the algae to pair up with this fungus because it helps extend its range. It wouldn't be able to live in all of the places that the lichen can. And boy, is this symbiotic relationship super effective because lichen covers between 6 and 8% of the Earth's surface, living in some of the most intense ecosystems, the tundra, deserts, rocky coastlines, and even some lichen can live inside rocks, like inside the grain pieces of rock, she says, as not a geologist. You can find lichen everywhere from the sea level all the way up here. We are about at 8,000 feet up here in Parque Carolina, and even higher in high alpine ecosystems. There are over 20,000 species of lichens, and the oldest lichen is 8,600 years old. It'd be working for them. Lichen is considered a commensalist on the trees or other surfaces that they grow on, meaning they're basically just using the tree to get up there to the sunlight, and they're not doing any damage to the tree. However, there is some fungus that is parasitic on the lichen. It is not involved in the lichen and isn't helping the cyanobacteria or the other fungus that's there. It's actually just hanging out and stealing all the nutrients. So there could be a parasitic fungus in this. We just wouldn't really be able to see it. Lichen comes in many different forms. There's like leafy forms, there's like coral-like forms, there are crust forms, powdery forms, and my favorite form, the gelatinous form, like the gelatinous cube. Some lichen, even of the same species, will present in different forms, either in different stages of its life or even sometimes based on the substrate that it's on. So you'll find that scientists in the scientific literature will use multiple different terms to describe what the lichen actually looks like. Normally, lichen reproduces asexually, but every now and then you can find one that is producing sexually, and they look like they have these little discs, kind of like these little mushroom cups, and that looks particularly fungus-like, and that is how the lichen is reproducing. Well, Sheryl, I hope that I satisfied your challenge, and now we are going to get onto your challenge. Well, Sheryl, it's now time for your challenge. Your challenge is to find me some art that is inspired by nature or has nature in it, or really anything along those veins. This art can be in any medium: paintings, digital art, fine art, sculptures, your 5-year-old niece drawing on the sidewalk, tattoos, basically whatever. You will get 1 star for every piece of art you show me, but you also must talk a little bit about it. The artist, why it's important, why it may be culturally important, like just something a little bit about the piece of art and not just like, this is a piece of art. So for example, behind me is an Andean condor, which is made out of iron. The Andean condor is the national symbol of Ecuador, although it's also the national symbol of many Andean countries. The condor is the largest flying bird if you combine both its wingspan, an amazing and astounding 10 feet, plus its weight. The condor is a vulture and is really important for the ecology up here in the Andes. You can find them nesting as high as 16,000 feet and are really important for, they're scavengers, so they're really important for cleaning up dead carcass stuff and keeping the waterways clean. In Andean folklore, condors are associated with the deities of the sun, with the heavens, with power and good health. The Andean condor is unfortunately considered vulnerable because of its status with humans. Habitat loss is really restricting their range, and in addition to that, some farmers think that they are attacking their livestock. That being said, you can find representations of condors in much of Ecuadorian art, not just statues and paintings, but also you can find them on our flag as they are our national shield. We're going to take a look at a couple other pieces of art here in the park, and then I will let you get on with your challenge. You can find a lot of Ecuadorian murals and street art all over the place, and many of these different street art and murals depict humans interacting with nature. This mural was done by Apitatan and Eva Burr, and Apitatan is famous for doing pictures and street art, not only depicting Ecuadorian people and Ecuadorian festivals and the culture, but also how they are interacting with the nature around them. I'll also include a short montage of a few other murals that I really like, just that I found around Ecuador. To be honest, I'm always quite shocked just how many insects and other arthropods are depicted in a lot of these artworks, and beetles. I tend to find a lot of beetle art, but naturally as I'm zooming past in a taxi or something and not have time to get a rabbit picture. Quito is considered the city of the hummingbirds, and so you'll find hummingbird art all over the city and even all over Ecuador, as we boast over 130 species of hummingbirds. In Quechua, the native language in Ecuador, the word for hummingbird is quinde. And so sometimes you'll hear people talking about the quindes that you can often find in the city. All right, Sheryl, I'm so excited to see what art you can show me and learn a little bit about it. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, or like it even if you didn't, and subscribe and leave a comment. Don't forget that you can do these challenges with us by tagging us at any of these social medias for you, yes you friend, to be featured in one of these videos. Well, that's it for me, and I will see you in the next Turf Wars video. Bye!